Hello, everybody, and thanks for that introduction. So now we're jumping straight in, as it were, at the deep end. We've got some great insight now so far on what the strategy involves, what the research involves, all the background work, some really good stuff there. And now I suppose the really important bit is to decide for ourselves what we do about it. All this research and all the statistics and all the in-depth knowledge and insights are all well and good on paper, perfectly fine on paper, but it's up to us as individuals and our individual businesses and our regions and destinations, which I will be referencing quite regularly within my slot here. It's up to us to take that responsibility, to take accountability, and to do something with it. This will be my mantra throughout my section here. Anyone that knows me knows that that's what it's about. It's about focus, it's about strategy, and it's about moving fast to action. So we're going to be very practical. There'll be lots of handy hints, lots of top tips, and a good summary at the end to really bring it together. So let's get started. So as you would have gone through with Connor, he would have mentioned various elements of the strategic approach to this research. So he's already preempted here what I'm going to be saying and what I'm talking through with you. The most important thing here, the most important of everything that I'm going to say is that first section that Connor referenced. It's the segment-centric ethos. Basically, focus first. You focus, and then you come up with your strategy, and only then you take action. Really vitally important. Okay, so everything defaults back to, well, who is the segment that we are mostly going to focus on as a business and as a region? So what we mean there is, let's look back then in terms of the segments that we've decided to prioritize on in the overall strategy. There's three main ones that have been highlighted first and foremost. There are others, so don't forget about the others. Look at all of them. Some of the other less relevant ones might be relevant to you individually, so don't forget those. So what we're going to focus on for my section is the three headliners, shall we say, the three core segments. The active maximizers, which make up 33%, indulgent relaxers, which make up 11%, and open-minded explorers that make up 15%. Now, the reason I wanted to highlight these percentages again at this early stage was just because the active maximizers make up 33% of the market doesn't mean that they're the best match for you. That doesn't mean that there's more of them out there, so you will get more of them. It's not about that. It's about who is the best match for you. And that may well be the 11% that make up the indulgent relaxers slot, because what it all comes down to is, who do you appeal to? Your product, your service, the experiences that you're offering. Who's the best match? Because that's what we're talking about here. We're talking about a match between who could potentially be drawn to you and who could potentially really enjoy what you're offering and what you offer. It's a matching process, okay? You have control over what you do. Okay, so once you understand fully who you're best matched to now, you can then tweak and work your strategy, take some really proactive actions to actually match better and therefore appeal to them more. So it's focus first. Who is it that you're going to prioritize? It doesn't mean ignore everybody else. Okay, so I want to really make that very clear. Don't ignore everybody else who comes knocking on your door looking to avail of your services and experience the fun stuff that you're offering. But it's in terms of your proactive engagement, your proactive messaging that you're putting out there to the marketer. It's where you're focusing the majority of your resources, your energy, and your actions. Okay, so it's what you're taking control of and what you're aiming at. It's the sniper approach rather than the scattergun approach. Okay, because it's all about focus. It's all about who we best appeal to, and therefore, and only then, can we decide what to do about it. And as I say, we're going to finish up my section on exactly what we should be doing about it. So what do we do about appealing to them better? We have a really strong understanding of what we offer. Here in Northern Ireland, it's incredible the array of experiences, of services, of products that we have on offer. We really underplay what we offer, actually, I think. And as an outsider looking in from my own perspective, working with so many of you, you really do underplay it. You really need to embrace it and say, we are brilliant at this. How do we then convey this message, and how do we draw in the right target market, and how do we appeal to them better, that core segment that we want to be focused on better? And I just wanted to touch something before I dig a little deeper, touch on something, which is the customer journey. Quite often we forget about the whole picture, the whole journey, the whole thought process of what our potential visitors, our potential customers go through. And I suppose the easiest way to understand this is think about yourself. Think about the last time you planned a breakaway, or got a notion to visit somewhere lovely, or went on and just started Googling in your hour off from work, whatever it is. Think about yourself. Get inside your own head and think, you know what I did? I was chatting to somebody, or I read something, or I spotted an advert for something, or a notion just came into my head. I started Googling, I started chatting to somebody that I met out. And then this is how it progressed. We sometimes forget that. We get into our businessy, worky head, and we forget about the natural customer journey that all of our visitors will have gone through and are still going through. Okay, so it's not just when they knock on our front door and walk in and experience what we're offering, it's all that entire journey. And how do we appeal to them every step of that journey? Okay, so right from the travel inspiration, you'll see it there at the top of the slide, the green one. You know, what has inspired them day one? I mentioned there, I mean, they might take a notion. It might be a song that comes on the radio. It might be a chat they've had with a friend, or an advert. Then they'll go away and do their research before they do their booking. Let's break this down a little bit further. Okay, so on the travel inspiration, they might see something online. All those little pop-up adverts that people are paying for these days to advert. I'm seeing a lot of adverts, both online and on the television, for overseas tourism destinations at the moment. So obviously they're being seen a lot in the Republic of Ireland. So we need to really know that our ROI market is being bombarded with a lot of communications for a lot of tourism destinations, as well as from Tourism Northern Ireland. Some great advertising happening down south from Tourism NI. So we need to know, though, that that's not just the only thing that they're seeing. They're seeing this in the mishmash of all of these amazing places that they could potentially visit. They may be searching themselves. They may be seeing things from online travel agents and tour operators that are doing their own direct marketing, previous clients, or directly to billboard style advertising, shall we say. So there's standard radio, TV, print, outdoor. I'm not talking about necessarily yours and you investing huge budgets. Like, I'll go out on a limb here and assume that not many of you have multi-million pound advertising budgets here, but others do. And that's what we're competing with. Okay. But again, back to that sniper gun approach, I'm not saying find those millions. I'm saying find the market and go direct. Appeal to them directly, and we'll go through some ways that how you can do that. Word of mouth is so strong, always is. You know yourself, you get a recommendation from a friend, you take it far more seriously than seeing an advert in a magazine. So again, go back to the way you think in your own thought processes in terms of how you think your potential visitors will be drawn towards you, shall we say. So when people go onto Google, they'll start searching by destination, they'll start searching by theme. So it might be family hotels in, unique days out, near. And when I'm saying in and near, always make sure that you're optimizing your own website and all online applications using those destination phrases. If you don't know how to do that, you need to really delve a little deeper in how to make the most out of your search engine optimization. I know Tourism Northern Ireland have lots of tools on that, so I do recommend that you look into that directly. Social media is a kind of a hit and miss with a lot of you. Some of you don't like it. Some of you like some of the platforms. Some of you use all of the platforms all of the time, you know, and there's some in between. What we have to remember is that our customers do use it. Our customers are online. Our customers are on various platforms. That doesn't mean that you have to be. You don't have to be everywhere posting all the time about everything. It's back to the focus. It's figuring out that particular customer segment that you're dealing with. Are they online? Are they on social media? If they are, which platforms specifically, and what are their habits when they are on those platforms? And then you act accordingly. Okay, you don't just scatter confused messaging all over every platform that you can. You don't have the time, you don't have the energy, you don't have the creativity, but most importantly, it's all back to the focused approach again. So as your customers are researching, you need to be found in the places that they are hanging out online. Okay, then and only then will they move to that booking stage. So they might do it on their mobile. Are you mobile friendly? If not, you really need to look into that. They'll certainly do it through your website. Some of you have active chatbots, which are really great. In that, you know, the little square, can I help you, that comes up on your website. These are great if they're managed effectively. So again, it's one of those things that don't do it if you can't then manage it effectively. If you don't have the staff or the time yourself to actually manage it, it's best just not to do it at all. So again, ask yourself the question and then figure out, first of all, is this particular customer segment using chatbots, and is there an engagement there? Is there likely to be an engagement there? And then equally importantly, can I then manage it once it's actually up and running? When people are on site or on property, we sometimes forget this. Okay, we sometimes forget. We have them now. We have their money. The tills are ringing. We need to really make sure that we mind them very, very carefully. So some people, some of you, shall we say, and I've worked with a lot of you directly, some of you forget all of that comes up to this point and just mind them on site, and others do the opposite. So we just need to make sure that we're doing both. Okay, so when people are on site or in location, they might be staying locally for 3 or 4 days and just availing of your services one of the days. Are you engaging with those around you? Are you engaging with social media in a way that when they're actually on site locally, they can still engage with you? And that's a really great opportunity for you to upsell, to cross-sell, to sell the next day, you know, an incentive to come back again, you know, at some point in the future. Also, on a far more practical line of thought, think about your actual curb appeal. When people show up, they have a real sense of excitement. They're delighted to be on holiday. Everyone loves a holiday. Everyone loves a breakaway. They're excited. They've gone to the trouble to travel to your area. They've gone to the expense. They've connected with the family, and maybe they've had a car journey, or you know, if they're coming from the south, they might have come all the way from Cork. So they might have driven a long way, okay, to get to you. What's their first impression? How are they being welcomed? What do they see? What's the signage like? Do they know where to go and what to do when they get there? Think about all of those very practical things as well when they actually land on site, because that all has an effect. If you go back then to the travel inspiration, it goes, you know, and look at word of mouth. These people that are on site will be telling others how they got on. And that's your next tranche of customers that are coming down the line. So it's all a cyclical series of events here that we're talking about. Okay, everything affects everything. It's like a balance sheet. Everything is either positive or negative. There's no neutrals. So really think about everything that you can. Don't overwhelm yourself with all of this. At the same time, you can't do anything about absolutely everything now, but you can say, okay, these are all the things I need to take into consideration. There's a lot of things, let's write it down. Now, where are the quick wins and how are we going to move to action here? So later on in my slide here, I'm going to show you some worksheets that you can download, that you can actually work through and say, okay, this is all the list of things that potentially could improve the way I appeal and attract. Now, this is what I'm going to do this week, this month, this year, and this is how I'm going to strategize going forward further. So don't allow this to overwhelm you as such. You can take a step back and say, this is what's manageable with the time, energy, and resources that I have. Once people move on from your property, obviously we have to make sure we remember the post-stay impact as well. So how can we follow up in terms of staying in touch with people? Obviously social media is coming up again. That's a common thread there. Are they leaving reviews? Are we responding to those reviews? Okay. Do we have a loyalty program? Do we have an incentive to refer or revisit? Are we keeping in touch either by email or old-fashioned snail mail? Some people love to get something through the door. Everything is online these days. An old-fashioned letter with a real-life signature on it can be very, very attractive to people. So there's no, there's no need to ignore the more traditional elements just because they've been replaced with more high-tech options. Okay, so what we have to remember here is that, again, it's back to focusing on those three markets. Okay, so let's break them down a little bit further. We'll look at what each of those markets really wants, and then we'll divert back to this, these touch points, and most importantly, what we can do about it. So first and foremost, the active maximizers. Again, this is the biggest chunk of the ROI market that really came up very, very strongly in the research for us. This may or may not be your core market, though. Okay, when I say core market, we're going to look at the three, and I really would urge you to pick one of the three to be your core. Still refer to the others, still appeal to the others to some extent, either lesser or greater, but one of them really has to be your core. You cannot appeal to all of the people all of the time. You can't be the best match for every potential visitor to Northern Ireland. And if you try to be, you won't be a great match for anybody, because you'll be trying to please everybody and you'll become very contradictory and very confusing in your messaging. So far better to pick one core market, one core segment, and say they're the best match. Therefore, all of these decisions I'm going to make about all of these different areas of proactive messaging, of where I'm going to spend my time, my energy, and my budget, let's think about this one first and foremost, and let's hope then it has a knock-on effect and attracts some of the other markets as well. So nothing is wasted on the other markets. It will still appeal. You'll still have that, as they call it, that halo effect. Is if you're seen as being really, really good at one thing, people assume you're going to be good at other things as well, if that makes sense. So let's look at the active maximizers then. What do they want? And we're going to break this down very systematically in a sec. So they like to have a planned and packed itinerary. Okay, so what are you going to do about that? They want a nightlife and romantic destinations. They look at the destination as a whole, not just the romance within it, but the destination and the region. They're looking for energetic experiences, unpredictability. I like that word. I like that word. Some surprises. Something they might be, it might be a couple of days before their break. They start Googling. We all do that, don't we? We've planned something a few weeks in advance or a few months in advance. It's coming up, the date is looming, we get excited and we start Googling again. Well, what else can I do while I'm there? What other things might I experience when I'm there? And you as a tourism business can respond to that. So knowing that and knowing what these do, because as you see there on the bottom right, they are active on social media. They're active maximizers, very active. They're the most active of our three segments that we're highlighting today. So if they are your core market, you need to make sure you're out there giving those extra last minute upsells, updates. Remember, some of them, as Connor mentioned, will be traveling with young children. Or they might be traveling without young children, as in they have young children, but they've decided for the sake of this breakaway to leave them at home. So that's interesting, just to bear that in mind as well. So some people might have young children, but choose some of their breaks to travel with them and some without. We all do it. So when I mentioned some worksheets, here's an example of what you can download as part of the toolkit. So what I've done here is I've really synopsized the key points from the research and transferred them into just a really, really practical worksheet. You can make these up yourself. If this one doesn't suit exactly, make up your own on a very simple spreadsheet. So down the left-hand side, you will see the key points that have come out in the research in terms of the active maximizers. There are itineraries that you mentioned. So then you have the next step. We say, what do we currently do? So you might, in terms of your itineraries, you might be a hotel, an accommodation provider. You might have nothing at all on your website about suggested itineraries. I might make a suggestion that you do, because our active maximizers want to know where to stay. Obviously, they might want to stay with you, but they want to do lots of things. They want to know what their day will look like. They want to get excited about it and plan it in advance. Hopefully, they will pre-book some in advance. So really, different ways that you could enhance this. And you in the middle column here, these are just suggestions. These are things I'm throwing out here, and I'm going to just mention as things to sort of get your creative juices flowing. Okay, so this is just literally to get you thinking about it. So what ways could you deal with that knowledge of, okay, they want to see itineraries. Do you have suggested itineraries on your website? Now, I'm not talking packages here. I'm not talking click here and book all of this. I'm just talking about ways to excite them to stay longer and to spend more in your area. You have links to local experiences. So again, if you're a hotel, do you have links to the local horse riding school, the bike hire, the YouTube channel of a local bar that has great music sessions? All of these things that, again, somebody can, from the outside, can look in and go, if I were to stay there, if I were to book and base myself here, what are all the fun things I can do? So help me to know what my holiday with you will look like. Because again, remember what Conor mentioned there about the intent of people traveling from the ROI market into Northern Ireland. There's high intent. People would like to visit Northern Ireland at some stage in the future, but they don't necessarily know how. So that's up to us to take that responsibility, say, this is how. When you want to come to Northern Ireland, this is how you plan your trip. This is where you should base yourself. These are the kind of things you could do if you're that way inclined. And when I say if you're that way inclined, because I understand you're an active maximizer. So I know the kind of things that you like to do. So therefore, here's how you should plan it. So again, we take responsibility and sort of spoon feed. Okay, we don't leave anything to chance on our website. Okay, so you might kind of think, oh, well, if people dig around, they might find something on page 62 about this. No, have a very clear link to that page with the suggested itineraries and spoon feed them. Everyone is time poor. They might be on Googling during their lunch break. They just want the things to come up very clearly. So not only should you be optimized on Google to come up with the relevant phrases about things to do in Mid-Ulster, things to do on the Causeway Coast, places to stay around, what to do with families on a rainy day near Belfast. These are the kind of things people are Googling. Are you appealing for them or are you appearing for them? If not, there's ways to do that. So again, back to your SEO there. And in terms of your itineraries as well, theming the itineraries can be really good based on your understanding of what you do and what they want. Okay, when I say theming as well, I'm not talking about twee sort of branding and Mickey Mouse style theming. Nothing wrong with that if that's your target market and that's what you offer. But I'm talking about just showing that you understand the types of things. So grouping, bundling things together that are relevant to them. So it might be a foodie break and specifically seafood or specifically foraging, or specifically organic or vegetarian or either wine tasting or something relevant. So the more focused you can go within that foodie route, is the same with, it might be tours, but maybe ghost tours might be the most appealing, or an afternoon tea, but maybe a savory seafood afternoon tea. So be quite selective in terms of what you group together in terms of your theming as well. It really, really appeals far more. And again, show them that you know them in terms of how you group and theme. Now, we mentioned the active maximizers. Really, the destination appeals to them first and foremost. So again, back to your website, back to your social media posts, are you selling destination first? Do you have great pictures and images of your area online? So, I mean, people don't drive from Kinsale to Londonderry to stay in a lovely looking hotel room. I mean, your hotel rooms might be very beautiful, but I'm not going to drive all the way just to stay there. I'm going to drive to that amazing region because I've seen the images and I know what else I can do. So that's really, really powerful for all the markets. And from anything, in terms of international markets, ROI markets, any titles that we give them, that's true of all of them. I go to your area because I want to experience all that you have to offer, not just because of that 1 hour I'm going to spend, on using your bike hire facility, or on your canoes or kayaks, or on your ghost tour. Okay, so that's really, really key. Think big, get out of our own heads, get out of our own ways, I suppose. Also, things to do lists. People Google top 10 things to do in. Okay, we've all done it, or best things to do in. Outdoor activities near. Again, we should come up with those lists ourselves, or borrow them from a local tourism body, or certainly link to them to make sure again that we're encouraging people to understand how to stay longer and to spend more in our area and with us specifically in our business. So we also know the active maximizers love their evening entertainment and their romance. So again, how are we showing them that we're a good match for that? Are we showing pictures of couples out for lovely meals, or walking hand in hand on a beach and just enjoying their connected time together? Are we offering them dine in or dine out options? Are we, even if we're an activity or an attraction without dining facilities, are we showing them what other options they have locally in terms of building that evening, their entertainment, their romance elements into that overall break? So think about where you slot into their overall needs, but also then reference everything else and show them how they can build their whole break around what you're specifically offering. We'll touch on collaborations and cooperating locally at a later stage as well, but really, really very, very important. Any extras, obviously, then that appeal more to sort of the couple romantic breakaway elements are obviously really, really key for you to upsell. I'm not talking about freebies here or discounts and that kind of thing. We're talking about upselling opportunities or cross-selling opportunities locally. Again, if it's relevant to you, have a real think about that. Maybe young children, as I've said, they may be traveling with them. So again, if you're appealing to that market with young children and are relevant to them, then pictures of families having fun on your website. Very important just across the board. As an aside, the pictures on your website, just review them and see that you have people in them. All very well and good having beautiful stock imagery of amazing landscapes, but they're far more effective if I, as a potential visitor, can picture myself actually there enjoying it. Far easier for me to envisage myself actually experiencing what you have to offer if there are people there, people like me enjoying it. Okay, so I'll be attracted to it if I see people who look a little bit like me there, whether it's with my children or with my partner or with my parents, whatever it is. So again, default back in your thinking to who am I appealing to? Therefore, I need to get videos and imagery that seem a bit like them, and that's what I use then. Some of this can be very subconscious as well. When people are online, they're flitting. A lot of people flit when they're online. So again, little things like, oh, I like the look of that. Give them things that they might potentially like the look of. Back to the kids again. So are you linking to local kids activities, things that I can enjoy with my children, or things I can book my children into so I can have a bit of peace and quiet for myself. Are there babysitting options, kids clubs, supervised activities locally, all of these kind of things, but only if it's relevant to your core target market. Too much of this, and you'll put people off if they're planning to travel without children. So again, it's back to, well, what's your core market and how do you best appeal to them? Okay, so not too much of it if your core is elsewhere. So active maximizers, as I already mentioned, are energetic and unpredictable, which means that they make decisions on the fly. When they're there on site or the day before, they might be on the train or in the car on the way there, and they're thinking about it and discussing it and planning still. So make sure you're featuring on Google searches for last minute deals, for things to do locally, for anything else that they can include. Remember as well in the thought process, back to the customer journey. So I may have booked your accommodation or your activity or attraction 2 months ago. And I may have paid upfront, or I may just have committed, paid a deposit, or I might, but regardless, in my head and subconsciously, that money is spent. Okay, so whether it's £20 or £500 that I'm spending with you or on my break, that money is spent and committed. Okay, so when I get close to the time, any upsells or extras or add-ons, it's just another £30, or it's just another £50, or it's just another £5. So I don't associate that necessarily on a subconscious level. So that's just in sort of the purchasing theory, that if you want to dig a little deeper on that. So that's why it's always great to have add-ons and upsells, even when people arrive. So think about our active maximizer arriving to your reception, to, you know, they're being shown to their glamping pod, for example. You'd be saying, oh, well, by the way, you know, we have bikes for hire as well. That's only, you know, £10 for a couple of hours, or whatever it might be. Again, that's the time when you might get an upsell and be able to make a few extra, a bit of extra income there as well. And social media and sharing. What's great for this market is to offer photo opportunities, prompts, reminders. I mean, a lot of people don't need reminding to take the images and share them, but some do. A great example of this really is the Wild Atlantic Way project, hugely successful. We all know about it. But you know, the signposts with the little W's at the top, they're literally prompts, they're reminders for people to say, well, stand exactly here to get the best shot of this point along your journey. Okay, you see it in Amsterdam. We have those big letters that you can all probably visualize when I'm saying it, the I Amsterdam, and people climb on them and take pictures. There's those old ones, you know, Blackpool Beach in England, you know, where you put your face through the little cutout and you take the picture. They're all those Polaroid cutouts that people stand in bars and get their pictures taken. They're just prompts and reminders. They're also branded. Okay, I'm here in Kinsale at the moment, and there's a nice map on one of the buildings here. So this is the start of the Wild Atlantic Way. There's a map on one of the buildings which has the map of Ireland and the Wild Atlantic route, and you are here. The amount of people you see standing in front of it, of course, it's got the bar branding on it as well, by the way. So yeah, it's a double whammy. So people are going to share. Okay, so that's our online word of mouth that we're referring to here. So again, I'd really encourage you to not only brainstorm like we're doing here now, and to be jotting down things as I'm chatting through this. You brainstorm absolutely everything, every wild and wacky idea that you can think of. And then most importantly, you'll see the final column there on the right, which is priority projects and quick wins. So this is where you take all of these fanciful ideas and say, right, what is manageable? What are the most important things? What can I do effectively and then manage effectively going forward? What can I afford to do? What do I have the time to do? What can I do today? What phone call can I make? And that's when you literally start saying, right, this is what I'm going to actually do about it. And that's when the rubber meets the road, shall we say. That's our active maximizers. Let's move on to our 11% that makes up the indulgent relaxers, because even though that's a third of the size of the active maximizers, these guys will spend more because they really want to treat themselves. So it's a lovely market to appeal to if you can. Okay, so obviously there's some, if you're a spa hotel, this is an obvious match. If you're a fine dining restaurant, again, obvious. But think outside the box if you're not a natural match, to say, is there a way that you could appeal to this market? It may not be your core market, but it might be somewhere on your website or somewhere on your social media. Without contradicting your core messaging, you might say, well, this is how I can appeal to these, or there might be a special offer, a special upsell. So what are they motivated by? And if we skip straight to the actual worksheet here, where I've summarized the core things that they want. Indulgent relaxers are really about that quality time, okay? That might be quality time on their own and treating themselves, but more often it's with a partner, a significant other, or a one best friend, if you like. Or it could be with family and friends. So it's about the usage of the time, as it were. So I want to treat myself, but I also want to connect with the people as we're enjoying this lovely treat. Okay, we've all had a tough couple of years, let's face it. I'm not going to harp on about that, but that underpins all of the decisions we make. But this is really key for this market. I've felt underwhelmed by what I've been able to do over the last couple of years. Now, hopefully, I can start planning again. I can start spending again. I can start treating myself again. I can start reconnecting with people again. Okay, so if you can appeal to this market, this is great. So in terms of what you currently do, have a quick check across the board, but what can you do about it? How can you potentially enhance all these learnings? Okay, so spending time with family and friends, depending on, again, who your market is within the indulgent relaxers, whether it's families or groups or couples or groups of couples. Some people like to travel in 2 or 3 couples going away together. So whatever you want to appeal to most, can appeal to most, or want to in the future, that's who you include in terms of the way you outline your offers, the way, what images you share, what video you share. What's really key to these, again, is back to the romantic breaks again. So people are willing to spend for those extra touches. So can you allow people to book some champagne, roses, chocolates in the room? Are there upgrades and upsells? Again, I'm calling them upsells because when I say upgrades, some people think, oh, well, do I have to offer more for free? Am I giving a suite rather than a standard room for nothing? That's not what I'm suggesting. You may want to do that because it increases referrals and word of mouth and general sharing and enjoyment and all the rest of it. But ideally, you'd like to be upselling and gaining extra income from it. So what can you offer as a sort of a VIP or an extra level treat option? So have your standard package or your standard offering, and then know how you can get some extra earnings from the next level up as well. Because there will always be people in that higher spending bracket that will want to treat themselves. Not everybody, but at least a kind of, by comparison, if people say, well, I don't want a VIP option, I can't afford it, or I don't have the opportunity at the moment. But what that also does, it makes the next price level down seem very reasonable in comparison. So there's a sort of a double whammy there in terms of your pricing structure. So always have your standard pricing package, then have your VIP package, and then have your discount package for your days off, your groups, or whatever terms and conditions, or payment in advance, or pen arrivals if it's a tour series or something like that. So always have your terms and conditions, but discount only if it suits you. Okay, so and really do the maths very, very carefully on that. Obviously, I'm not a big fan of discounting, but it obviously gets your bread and butter in advance, if that makes sense to you. Again, back to your SEO, your search engine optimization for Google and other engines. so vitally important. So if you don't feel like you're on top of this, don't ignore it. Please don't ignore it, because that's where people are doing the majority of their research for tourism-related visits. Again, and this isn't just ROI markets, it's across the board. So you have to make sure that you're coming up for SEO searches. It's vitally important, and it really isn't as tricky as you think it is. Okay, it can be learned and it can be done, whether you outsource it or do it yourself. Please do get on top of that, because we are a bit weak in our industry in this. But look on the flip that and say, right, because our industry is weak at SEO, if you're good at it, if you get a handle on it, you're going to come out on top of the Google rankings if you really harness that. But make sure, though, that your search engine phrases, your key phrases, are relevant to what they're searching. So is it romantic breaks? Or is it, when we go on to the next section there, large comfortable hotels, which is what indulgent relaxers are you coming up for top hotels Belfast, luxury hotels Northern Ireland? Go wider. So always involve a destination word there, a location, but also then a descriptive word like unique hotels, romantic hotel, family hotel, or whatever's relevant to the activity, accommodation, or attraction that you are offering. Indulge, we touched on this already. I mean, they really want to treat themselves, this market. So it's think about how you can upgrade, think about offers, think about VIP options. It might be something like, a private tour. People will pay money for privacy, thinking that anything that they think the money can't buy, something that they think isn't in the local guidebook that others are. People like to feel that they're special and are getting something a little bit different. So have a serious think about what you can do, what you can offer, what you can include or upgrade or upsell, that will make them feel even more special, more indulgent, more like it's a proper treat, as it were, because people really are showing that trend towards wanting to treat themselves and wanting to splash out. So help them do just that. Food and wine options are an obvious way to do this, in terms of people really are spending more now on good quality food and more expensive wines. So let's maximize on that trend as well. So with that, in terms of good food and music, it's more because we haven't been out a lot, over the last couple of years. So when I do get away, I want to make sure that I'm getting a great meal, some really nice wine, and some nice entertainment, some music that appeals to me, whatever it is I'm into. You'll understand your market better than I do. But I would like to know in advance what I can do potentially while I'm in your area. So I want social proof of that. And what I mean by social proof is testimonials, video testimonials ideally, or videos of other people enjoying the music. And these don't have to actually be highly professional, edited, studio quality videos. These can be, with a phone backstage doing a little vox pop interview with somebody. That can really appeal, especially on social media, but also on your website. So think about a balance of both. Or you can use destination videos as well that are very beautifully done in each of your destinations. I know there's a stock of great videos there. Shopping, this market, again, because they're treating themselves when they're actually away, they will spend on shopping as well. And I suppose that sort of rule applies a little bit to all of us, sort of when we're not, when we take a step out of our everyday life, we forget how much we're spending. The credit card is overutilized sometimes. So again, let's make the most of that, and let's help them enjoy their retail therapy. Shopping breaks are a great thing to offer, no matter what your sort of your ilk yourself in terms of your business type. Because I might be going to an area, I might be looking at hotels to stay in, I might not book your actual shopping break that you're offering. But what that does is that just clicks something in my head to think, well, I'll stay there. I'll stay on the dinner, bed and breakfast break, not the shopping break. I'll stay on the dinner, bed and breakfast offer. But now I know that there's a great shopping centre nearby. So not many people might buy that shopping break itself as a complete package, but the perception is now that that's the best place to stay in that area if I want to go shopping. Okay, so it's about building that overall perception for people in terms of the types of things that we're offering. The same goes with things like a spa break. I might not buy the entire spa break. I might just book a room only in your hotel, but now I know that I have all of these other options when I'm actually on site. And obviously with the shopping, some people do in their localities and their towns and their regions, they have coupons, discounts, vouchers, referral schemes. And so if you have any of those in your areas, really make the most of them. They can work very, very well. But again, synopsize all of these great ideas that you're coming up with down to your priority projects and your quick wins, because that's the only way you can focus it down to actually a list of what you want to do. So it's not just you know, all the potential things that you could possibly action going forward, but when, how much is it going to cost, and who's going to do it by what date? Really, really important that you make sure that you're focusing to that level in terms of strategy. Let's look at the third core segment that we're being recommended to. So let's look at our third segment there that we're being recommended to look at. So again, not all three, not a scattergun approach, but if the open-minded explorer is your core segment, then again, they're a really, really nice market to go out after, because we know them now, we understand them. They've come up very, very strongly in the research, and we're being recommended to take them very seriously. So what do they want, shall we say? So food is very important, it's highly motivating for them. So then we need to understand that that will motivate them to book the entire trip. Okay, so it's not just somebody saying, oh, I'd like a lovely weekend away, and oh, by the way, where will I eat? It's somebody who's saying, I have the option to go anywhere on the island of Ireland for a foodie related break. Food is a priority for me. I will go anywhere in the entire country. And now let's start looking at options. Now let's start Googling. Okay, so that's why you need to make sure that you're featuring on food related breaks. Again, I might not then book an entire package, including all of my meals and a tasting menu and a wine tasting and that kind of great things you might have on offer. But again, it positions it in my mind as a food destination. Okay, as a food location. I will base myself there because I know I have these options locally. So again, spoon feed me. Tell me through your images, your videos, your menus. Do you have your menus uploaded? If you don't, if you change them really regularly, which is nice, which I'd like you to do, that's great, but make sure they can see the sample. There's a great hotel in Limerick that has really lovely short videos of their chef behind the scenes, you know, prepping their favorite dishes. So show me that you love food. Show me that your chef is a real foodie. Show me what their preferences are, what their favorite dish is, what they would eat on a Sunday night at home, you know, in front of the telly. What's their favorite thing? I'd like to know that about you. So share that with me. Now, your open-minded explorers love their natural environment and their scenery. So again, it's back to, I want to stay with you or book your activity, but I want to do other things. I want to experience getting out and about locally as well. So again, you need to show me how to do that, how to plan a day, how to plan a weekend, how to plan a 3 or 4 days, either myself with my partner or with my family or with other couples or whatever it is. So again, spoon feed that to me, but also inspire me. So through your images, I want to look at something and go, wow, I just want to be there. Okay, so have a review of your website and think, am I inspiring or am I just showing people something because I had a space to fill on my website? And you know, I know that sounds a bit cheeky when I'm saying that, but that can happen. We all know it can. You know, we're building our websites saying, okay, that will fit there. okay, or the colors work there. Take a step back from it and say, okay, if my open-minded explorer is viewing this and they want to be inspired by a destination, am I giving them that? Okay, so really, really try and do that. Try and step into their heads. Do you have downloadable maps, say for walking, cycling, driving routes in your area, that I can bring up on my phone as I'm out and about and go around when I'm actually there on site? Again, thinking about that customer journey. When I'm on site, I'd like these, but also before. So I think, okay, well, I was planning a 2-night stay there in that area. I might stay 3 or 4 days because there's so much to do that appeals to me because I'm being inspired by these great suggestions. So give as much information as you think that I might like to see. So our open-minded explorers really want to stay in high quality accommodation. Okay, so if you're not an accommodation provider, then buddy up with people who are, or at least refer them, or if people phone to make their bookings, make sure you can recommend. Okay, and when I say high quality accommodation, this is not just 5-star hotel with spa facilities. I'm talking about really lovely glamping facilities. Okay, as in high end with my own hot tub and fire pit. Okay, that's what I would see as high quality accommodation. Okay, it's really, really good and strong as what it is. Or it might be a very solid 4-star hotel with a great menu and a really lovely leisure center. That's high quality accommodation. Again, it's a matching process. What you have as an offer, so you might be the accommodation provider. So who can you buddy up with in terms of, you know, fulfilling that outdoor piece, and then vice versa? Who do you need to be recommending? That's a match for you and a match for your potential open-minded explorer visitor from the ROI market. So if I was in this segment, I'd also be motivated by culture. Okay, and so it's what we call the international market, that culturally curious, or the curiously cultural, as some call it, which I like even more. So this isn't culture with a big C. This is about having a cultured experience. This isn't just about museums and, you know, very high-end culture. This is about finding out more about the place, getting under the skin of it, connecting with the locals. I will chat to the locals and find out what to do when I'm there. We saw that in the video that Connor showed. I want to know when I'm there. I want to know about you. I want to know about your family. I want to chat to the tour guide off script, so that I really understand and I feel like I've known a place, the authenticity of the place. When I go away, I have that sort of comfort of thinking, yes, I get it. I know who these people are. I know what this place means. So that's really important then. If you're naturally, you know, cultural in your offering, well and good. If you're not, then if you're appealing to the open-minded explorer, how do you actually make yourself more interesting in terms of that connected cultural piece, in terms of your images, your links, your videos, your testimonials. And I've mentioned testimonials a few times now. You can ask for specific testimonials. You know, somebody's checking out, or somebody's out on bikes with you, or on a tour with you, and they say, this is what's great about this, and it's relevant to what we're talking about here. Ask them to say, do you mind actually just popping that, you know, on a feedback form as you leave, or do you mind sending me an email with a few words on it specifically saying that? And people don't mind if they've enjoyed an experience and they're still buzzing from it. They really like to help you out with that. And then you can use that quote on your websites or in your presentations to actually sell to other like-minded people. So that's a very nice way of doing it. This market is the most focused really on their personal health and safety. And that's around the whole COVID piece, which we haven't mentioned a lot today, but underpins all of your plans going forward. What's really important here is we don't want to be scary about it. Okay, so we want to give that level of comfort without being too clinical and over the top with it. So that's a balancing act. It's saying, I understand that you have concerns, and these are the measures that we've put in place in order to address your concerns. Come and stay with us, come and engage with us, and this is how we will keep you safe. Okay, so this is what we've done heretofore. So this is these are the checks we have in place. These are the testing of our staff and the sanitization of everything, and you can publish all of that, but also talk in terms of their experience. Okay, so not just a list that can read a bit like, well, we were told to do all of these things, so we have. That's well and good, but take it one step further and say, when you come out cycling with us, this is how your booking process, your arrival process will look. This is the maximum numbers. This is how we're going to circulate fresh air. This is how we're going to help you distance, help you sanitize. This is what we have done to make you more comfortable. So they don't really have to even worry and think about it. They're putting themselves in your hands and say, okay, they know what they're doing. They'll be looking after us. They understand. So therefore, we don't have to worry about it. It's one less worry on our lovely breakaway. So just make sure you're communicating that in the right way, making it about them. This market are very keen, and the keenest of the three that we've spoken about good value for money as well. So when I say good value for money, this can be misinterpreted sometimes as cheap. But we're not talking about something being cheap or being discounted. We're talking about the value that you're offering for the amount that they are paying. Okay, so it's always about the value. It's never about the price. I'll say that again. It's always about the value. It's never about the price. So I might have £100 to spend. I might spend it with you and come away thinking, oh, it wasn't great value. Or I might come away buzzing, telling all my friends, I got amazing value for the £100. So think about what you're delivering for the money you're charging. And think of ways that you can include things that don't cost a lot to yourself, but that increase the perceived value and real enjoyment of the overall experience. Okay, so always sit back and think, okay, how can I enhance the value for money or the perception of value for money? Okay, because I don't mind spending money, I don't mind treating myself, but I really want to get the value for it. Obviously, there's other markets that we're not as interested in that argue every single pound that they spend and will look for a discount and everything. They're not your ideal market, really. We're not talking about that at all. Discount when you have to, when it suits you, but really, really know the maths on it and know your terms and conditions. Always have an if. That's what I always say to my clients. When you're discounting, have an if. Say, right, I will offer 10% discount if you come on a Monday at 8 a.m. or if you pay in advance in full, or if you book 10 arrival dates over the next 3 months, if it's over 50 people, if it's on a Saturday in November, if the ifs that suit you. So make a list. If you haven't already done this, make a list of all your ifs so that you know if somebody comes on the phone or somebody emails you or somebody at ITOA or Meet the Buyer says to you, that all looks great, but can I have a discount, please? You know what your ifs are. And if it suits you, then you can offer it and you can get some bread and butter business in advance. Okay, so discounting is great, but only if it suits. So that's the focus piece. That's the piece where we're talking about being segment-centric and having that ethos, which is a great word, throughout our business and throughout all our decision making. But again, that's all well and good and until we, unless we do something about it. So let's look at 3 ways that we can actually effectively manage our strategy in a very customer-focused way, in a segment-centric way. There are 3 ways to do this, and I'll break these down a little bit further as well, in terms of our strategy towards our own growth and our growth in sales in the ROI market, which is why we're specifically here today. First of all, we're going to look at a collective effort and how we can think more collaboratively, regionally and by destination. Then we're going to look at our compelling communications or the way we message to really inspire and invite people. And then we'll look how we can be constantly purchasable, both online and offline. So this will be quite a detailed piece, but I'm going to move through it quickly, but with a lot of detail. So first of all, the collective effort. What do we mean by that? What we mean here is that the only way that we can compete on a national and international stage is to cooperate and collaborate locally. Okay, it's about really coming together as regions, as destinations, as themes, and then saying, this is what we're all about, this is how we bundle, this is how we message as a collaborative opportunity and an experience, and therefore this is how we then compete nationally and internationally. I mentioned earlier on in my section here about the fact that we're competing with all of this very busy, very inviting messaging from all over the world. We can't, as one individual supplier, compete against that, but we can by region, or we could by strong theme, okay? And that's how we stand out, okay? So what can you do to increase your offering to bundle locally? Or vice versa, how can you increase somebody else's offering by suggesting to bundle with them? So let's look at it from both points of view. And we're talking about thinking by theme, but also thinking outside the box, having some fun with it, if you like. So what do we know about collective effort? And effort is a great word to use here because it really isn't about sitting back and letting other people do the work. It's about standing up and saying, right, how can I really contribute locally? How can I enthuse locally and collaborate with others to push this forward? Because a rising tide lifts all boats. We see this worldwide. I've done some master's research on collaborative strategy, and it really, the tourism clusters that really work internationally are the ones that collaborate effectively. So you really need to make sure that you're thinking very strongly about this. So let's look at what we need to do here in terms of collaborative experiences. First of all, have a check to see what's already out there in terms of your local council tourism initiatives. There are a lot of experiential tourism initiatives and collaborative initiatives going on at the moment. So talk to your local council, your district council, and see what's going on. I'm personally involved in several of them, so I know that's actually happening and very proactive at the moment. So have a look at your area. Also, it's not just the tourism-related collaborations we can think of here. Are there other business-related, food-related, a restaurant association, an accommodation association? What other ways can you collaborate with people that aren't necessarily specifically from a tourism-led perspective? And also personally, think about how you can collaborate and network yourself as a business professional. Are you using your LinkedIn contacts effectively? You remember, LinkedIn is not necessarily for your business networking, it's for your own professional and personal networking in a business sense. Okay, so it's not about pushing your sales message, it's about networking your own professional aspects. You need to look at how you can cross-sell locally. So have you got either formal or informal referrals and recommendations programs locally? Do you incentivize your staff to cross-sell and upsell locally? Do you have agreements in place or just understandings in place that you all know about each other? Something we've done locally in several of your areas is to have sort of networking evenings between small businesses to get to know each other personally and also to find out a little bit more. Have you invited other local providers to come and experience what you do? Have you given them a tour? Have you given them a show run? Have you taken them out and about and let them experience, how great it is to actually experience what you do? Because it's all very well telling them about it or emailing them the details and the pricing and that kind of thing. But unless somebody's actually experienced it with you, it's very hard for them to recommend fully. Is there a clustered approach in your area? And when I say a clustered approach, it's all up here. It's all about the mindset. It's about not the them and us. It's the we're in this together approach. And that can, it sometimes take a little bit of time to grow. And we've been doing a lot of work in all of your areas. on growing this more clustered mindset, clustered approach. It's a trust thing. So you need to find out more about each other, do some business with each other, and really learn to trust each other more in terms of collaborating. And that will grow over time, and it has been proven time and time again in very successful areas worldwide. Again, in terms of that clustered approach, it says you can cluster by theme. So we've got some great clusters which are sort of, a Game of Thrones theme, or a organic food theme, or outdoor activity, or children's activities, or again, think by theme. Why? Because that's how your consumer, that's how the 3 segments we were talking about earlier are thinking. They know what they want in terms of the themes that they want to engage in. So therefore you need to as well. You don't want to expect them to actually have to, dig around and find out all the things that are relevant. Give that to them. What add-ons and extras do you have locally within your business, and what kind of things that you can include or even suggest or mention on your site or in person that would encourage them to stay longer and spend more locally? Again, it's all back to that destination piece. Be very aware of your competitors. Okay, so not just those that you're wanting to collaborate with, but your direct competitors as well, be they other businesses or other regions and destinations in general. It's not just about keeping your enemies close, it's because this is what the consumer will be doing. A consumer doesn't just go online and look at one specific business or one specific region and say, okay, well, I'm going to book that and not look at anything else. They're looking at everything else. They're comparing you. And it's very hard for them to compare like for likes. So you need to understand as much as you can about all of your competitors so that you know what your customers are thinking about when they're booking you or when they're considering to book you. So that's really, really important. And when it comes to competitive pricing, what I say is don't competitively price, as in don't price to beat your competitors and undercut them, but understand what they're offering for the price that they're charging and then differentiate from them. Either offer way more and then charge more, or if you want to discount, then make sure you're offering something that is of lesser value, as it were, in terms of a perception. So just make sure that when the customer is weighing it up, say, here's the £50 offering, here's the £100 offering, they're very likely to consider both. But is that 100 and is that really 50 in terms of the perceived value of it? Okay, so that's your competitor awareness, but then also what does your segment want to pay for it? What do they want in the area? How do they want to engage with you? So that's working collectively, working together as a team. Now let's look at how we message, how we communicate, and most importantly, how we're compelling with that. And that's a great word to use here, in that we're compelling people to buy. We're compelling people to book, people to research, people to think, oh, that's something I'm interested in. I'll find out more about that. Okay, so it's our headline messaging, which is our, this is our catch their attention piece. And then as we dig a little deeper, it's here's the detail that you want to reassure you, to give you a reason to stay longer and spend more, to reason to choose us rather than another destination. Okay, so it's a multi-leveled messaging thinking we're looking at here. So when we're saying compelling messaging, we're talking about inspiring them to want to book, and we're wanting to motivate them to book now. Okay, so again, we're looking at both of those. So what is it? Again, defaulting at all stages, as you know by now, back to which your core segment is that you're looking at, that you're focusing on most, what they want to see, what platform they're on. Okay, so a couple of do's and don'ts. First of all, you want to be clever, you want to be random, you want to be funny. Some people can go a little bit overboard with this, especially if it's not a specific match for what you're offering. So be very careful with that in terms of always be genuine. Okay, so really, yes, think about the box. Have a bit of fun with it, especially online on social media channels. People have great fun on that and can be very engaging, and that's how you increase engagement on lots of the channels. But be genuine, be authentic, show your own personality through all of your messaging. So even if you're hiring somebody in, if you're outsourcing somebody to write for you, if you have a PR person, make sure they understand the voice, the tone, the level of humor, the level of formality that needs to be used across all of messaging. Okay, don't ever contradict. Don't use a very different tone on Facebook than you do on your website, than you do on your newsletter that you send out to potential customers. So it has to make sense across the board. Okay. What you also need to make sure of avoiding is overwhelm. Okay, sometimes we think we have all of these great things to offer, both in our business and locally, and all these different team members and everything. So we'll tell them all, give them all of this information. That overwhelms. It creates uncertainty in the buyer's mind. Any uncertainty means, I don't quite get what they're selling, so I'm going to book this instead over here. Even though that's less appealing necessarily, it's more certain. I can understand it better. So make sure that you don't overwhelm, confuse, or certainly not exaggerate in anything. Because if you overpromise and underdeliver, you're on the back foot as soon as people arrive. Okay, so you need to make sure that you're very clear on what you're offering. Yes, judge it up a bit, soup it up, make it sound great, but don't overpromise at any stage. That's really very important. So what we're going to do, like we did in the previous section, is transcribe each of these into the worksheets that you can download from your toolkit. Again, because it's what are we going to do about it when we understand that we need to use compelling messaging, powerful communications throughout everything. So first of all, how do we embrace the giant spirit? How do we embrace a giant spirit in our messaging? So there's specific toolkits and workbooks on that. I won't harp on about that because it's quite clear now. You've seen it. You've seen webinars on it. They're up on the Tourism Northern Ireland website, so take a look there at how you can use the correct fonts, images, videos to tie yourself in, because again, the awareness is building, as Conor was saying. The awareness is building of the brand in the ROI market. We're not quite there yet, but the aim is high in terms of where we want to go with it. So you need to make sure that you fit very seamlessly in under that brand with your experiences and with your overall approach to branding as well. Are you buying in with your local and regional messaging? Do you fit into that as well? Again, you're avoiding that contradiction. You need to make sense, okay, in terms of the theme that you're buying in with, or the destination, or the region. Okay, so again, there's just no uncertainty in contradicting. So just a quick review of all of your messaging can be done and it's very, very effective and highly important. You decide what your strategic core message is. Okay, so how do you want to be perceived? This is an interesting one because people sometimes think that they don't have any control over how people perceive them. Actually, in business, you do. You get to decide how you want to be perceived, how you want others to view you. You put out every message, every image, every video you can control. Yes, with the caveat of the social media, there's TripAdvisor, there's all of that sort of underlying element that others can share as well. But from your proactive standpoint, you get to decide this is who we are. This is what we're going to portray. So make sure you review that and say, am I getting my USP across, my unique selling point across? What is most important about what I do? What am I the only, the first, the best, the smallest, the biggest? What is it that makes me extra special? And how do I shout about that the loudest? Okay, so again, that's how people really succeed in a tourism space. People know you for one key thing. I mentioned before, I'm in Kinsale at the moment, gourmet capital of Ireland. They're only perceived as the gourmet capital of Ireland because they've told people for the last 44 years that they are the gourmet capital of Ireland. That's why they're associated with food. So you get to decide what message to put out and just keep on and on and on and on about that. You're not going to bore people because people only see it a few times. Okay, but it's just that consistency. Do you have a focused and planned approach to your messaging. Okay, I mentioned this, or I referred to it a little bit earlier, was that so across all platforms, across whoever's doing it for you, whether it's internal or you're outsourcing this, is it a consistent focus on one particular customer segment and what formality they want, what humor they want, what images, what video appeals to them? Is it consistent and focused on them? And is it planned and strategic going forward? Do you have tactical action steps going forward? Do you know how many times you're going to be posting on Facebook? You can pre-schedule them, so you can actually, pre-schedule a week or a month in advance in terms of how you want your messaging to go out, and then be reactive. That's up to you, really, but there's ways of getting around that. But have the tactics in place. Don't sit at your computer in the morning and say, damn it, I haven't posted on Facebook for a while, what'll I come up with? Okay, so get a month-at-a-glance planner, say, right, every Monday I'm going to do a testimonial. Every Tuesday it's going to be a video. Every Wednesday it's going to be something about the destination. Every Thursday is a recommendation locally. Just pre-plan it, then you get that sense of control over it rather than that reactive. People feel the reactive when they're reading it. So again, be tactical and be focused and planned in your approach. And then also prioritize in terms of your budget. You only have a certain amount of creativity, headspace, time, resources, people to do this. And money. You don't have unlimited budgets. Well, I'm making that assumption that you don't. So what are your priorities in terms of advertising and in terms of spend and in terms of outsourcing this area? Okay, again, do a brainstorm, do a review, and then prioritize and come up with some quick wins. Because a very practical section of this, and that came out very clearly in the research, is the purchasability of what we're offering. Very, very important that we make it very easy to book, that what we're including is very clear, so that they can do that comparison that I was talking about, will I go to that region and stay there, or will I go to your region and do this? How can I compare like for like, or what are the difference in terms of value for what I'm booking? So that's why all this is all so clearly tied in together, and I hope I'm getting that across to you, because most importantly, it's about them doing this, which is the best value for money, because that's what they're doing in their heads. They're not doing that physically, they're doing that in their heads, and we need to be very aware of that and make it very, very clear and then easy. They'll click the book now button and you'll actually hear your tills ringing. So as well as that, do you vary your pricing by season, by time slot, by availability? Very clear. This is back to that hint I made about the discounting earlier, in that only if it's of benefit to you, only if it gets that nice base of bread and butter business in, only if it fills a gap where you wouldn't, when you still need to pay the bills. But think that through, okay? Some people, it's easier just to put a £50 blanket rate across the board for the whole year. Yes, that's far easier. But you'll make far more money if you increase that to maybe £75 and then discount for the rest. So think strategically about the way you're pricing, so that you can ultimately, increase your profitability. Do you incentivize early purchases? More and more people are doing these days. Book in advance, pay up front, and you get a discount that way. And do you encourage return visits, or indeed referrals and recommendations? Bring a friend the next time, and there's certain added value. So again, we need to look at this across all channels. This is important. There's lots of ways for people to book. So we need to just make sure that we review all of these and they're consistent. So online direct, so check your own website. Very easy to do, but is it clear? Is it easy? Is it fast to book? People have very little patience. And even less time. So you need to make sure that when they spot something, they can buy it fast and they can buy it easily. I know only last week I was trying to book something online. I had decided I wanted to buy it and I couldn't figure out how, so I was gone. I bought it somewhere else. They lost a sale of about €200. That was actually on that day. So just make sure that that's very, very easy. Are you offering good value? Are you competitive in terms of competitive landscape? Again, you're not matching or undercutting, but do you make sense in terms of your competitive pricing? And can I buy add-ons and extras if I want to spend a little bit more and treat myself? Okay, so that's your direct online. Now look, online indirect, okay, so or third-party websites. So look, have a think about who else is selling what you offer online, and just do the same check that you did for your own website across the board. You might want to go for rate parity, or having the same rate across the board, or you might want to differentiate. As long as there's logic behind it. And when I say that, if I was to ring you in the morning and say, why is it £20 on your website and £18 on their website, if you can explain it to me, great, perfect. If you can't, or if it was an accident, then we might have to look into that a little bit further. So that's your online. Then look offline, both directly and indirectly. So directly, obviously, that's your emails, phones, walk-ins. Review them all. Say, is it easy? Is it fast? Is it clear to book? Both directly and indirectly. Now look at all your key routes to market. What I mean to routes to market is anywhere where you can get in front of somebody, either in person or remotely, to sell. Anything. It might be trade shows, it might be virtual meet the buyer, in-person meet the buyer, hopefully soon, in networking events. You know, how are you selling? What perception is your price creating? Are you bookable there and then? If not, what's your follow-up procedure? And again, back to, if there's a logical explanation for it, great. Keep doing more of that. If there's not, then we need to actually review it. Now, the third piece that we're going to look at is vitally important, and that's really about the market intelligence, or the actual, tracking and recording and tracking and tweaking of what we're actually doing. Okay, so both in terms of understanding the market around us and who's doing what, but most importantly, what we have overall control over is what our goals are, what our own KPIs are, and how are we achieving them. If we're not achieving them, we've either set the goal wrong, it's not a SMART goal. We've all heard this terminology, or are we setting SMART goals? But very few of us really are. Okay, and when we mean a SMART goal, we mean, for example, take the first element on the left there, where it says sales units per experience or function. How are we actually giving a unit, a time, a percentage, a who is responsible, a which target market we're looking at? Okay, so we don't want to see the word more or fewer or save money or increase sales. Okay, I want to say by March 2022, we will have increased our online third-party sales by 25%. Okay, that's how specific we're talking about. And then when that time deadline comes around and we realize we haven't hit it, then we tweak that and say, well, why didn't we? We have enough information there to then look back, and we tweak either our goal or we tweak our actions. Okay, so we need to look at obviously our sales units, but break it down in terms of what our goals are. We need to look at our sales revenue across all functions. Individually, when I say individual, I mean our own business. And then you'll see the next row there, collaborative sales. So if we come up with ideas for collaborative bundled experiences, how many of those have sold? If not, we discuss it with the other members and we say, can we tweak this? And is there anything we can do about it to improve it? Future bookings. So this is our longer term planning. So we can't necessarily track them as effectively now, but we know that, say, okay, for our 2022 bookings, if we're a hotel, that sells destination weddings, and we're hoping to attract some ROI destination wedding business, we want to say some of those inquiries and bookings coming in now. So we want to track them now so that we're not reactive then next year and having to discount and offer last minute deals. Also, it's very interesting to track feedback and referrals. So this is a softer one that is harder to be smart about, if you like. But All the more important, or equally important at least, to track how many referrals. And this might be a case of when people walk in the door or when people phone to book, saying, where did you hear about us? And then you track it. So you know what's working. Do more of that. What's not working, you can save your time and energy and budget and not do that. Do something different the next time. And obviously your longer term sales are vitally important. What's really important as well is to take that step back and say, well, what's optimal? Okay, we can't maximize. I don't necessarily like this word maximize. It's overused. Like, we can't just sell as much as we can everywhere. It's about what's the optimal mix. Okay, the optimal mix across our various business functions, for the money and budget that we have, and also what's optimal for my lifestyle. So some of us are running small businesses, and they might be family businesses. Both partners, might be involved, in the business. And so you need to take a step back and say, well, how do we want our life to look? Our business life, our personal life, do they actually fit in together in terms of, meeting our life goals? And that's not me getting all woo-woo and holistic on you. That's actually, your business will only run really, really effectively and profitably if the rest of your lifestyle fits into it, and vice versa. In the fourth section, we're not going to touch on here because Connor has covered that in terms of the sustainability credentials. So we're going to skip straight forward to our top tips, okay? So, but how I like to call it is moving fast to action, because that's really, really key. We can waffle on as much as you like about all of these great ideas and this lovely long-term vision and all the rest of it, but it's about what can we do now? What can you do by the end of this week or this month to actually action this? January is coming around very fast. January is a great time to take stock. We're all in that mindset of New Year's resolutions. Let's do that for our businesses as well and say, okay, right, it's January 1st. What are we going to do in January to really streamline the rest of the year and start acting fast and preempt some of those and do as many as you can in the month of December as well. So these are just some top tips and some picking up on certain things that I've mentioned throughout the presentation. So do a full review of your website content, images, tone. Is it relevant to that customer? Revert again back to your 3 customer segments, which is your core one, and is everything across your website relevant to them? Review all your images and video both online and offline. That's the easiest bit, just to swap out really, really fast. Check your pricing across all. Now, this is really practical stuff, okay? Really, really practical, and can be done quite quickly. But and again, because we're dealing with the ROI market here, you can. Some people say you should, but it can be tricky. You may choose to have your pricing in both currencies, in euro and in sterling, in pounds. So that really depends on whether you can manage that or not. It can be more appealing to people because they understand it more and they feel they're avoiding the fluctuations. It's really swings and roundabouts. That's a decision for you to make. But again, think logically about it and make that decision in an informed manner. Don't forget your on-site touch points. Again, I mentioned that, but when people arrive on site, what's the first thing they see? Is the signage correct? What's the first impression? What are you wearing or your staff wearing? Is the reception area clean and tidy and welcoming? So think about the perception you're trying to create, and are you appealing to that customer that's of most focus for you? Your SEO phrase, I've mentioned that several times. Please do some work on this. I know I'm sounding a bit school teachery, and all of you that know me already know I'm very school teachery. So that's one of the things I do harp on a lot about is your SEO, your search engine optimization. This is how people research, and they will use local phrases. So your region, your city, or the theme that they are specifically looking to engage in. They might search under that as well. Other things we need to do. This is the second of 3 pages of top tips. So approach other local tourism businesses to suggest collaborating and cooperating. So if there's nothing formal in your area, do it yourself. Pick up the phone, call in with a few flyers, invite people over to experience what you do. Ask to go out with them and experience what they're offering if they're an activity, or for a show round if they're an accommodation or an attraction. It's amazing. Like, others are open to this. They really are. Everyone's looking for interesting ways to increase their business. So be the one to reach out to other people. Keep up to date with the consumer trends. So this piece of ROI research is an update from the last piece, and it might update over the next few years as well. There's lots of other research online. The new trends are coming out about the usage of social media. The more you know about your customers and your potential customers, the more closely you can appeal to them. The more you can tweak what you're offering for them to say, yes, they understand me, so therefore I will book them rather than booking them. Really, really vitally important to know what motivates them and how you can attract more of them. Tracking the impact of your actions on sales, really, really key, because you need to, be proactive. You're going to be doing things online and offline. You're going to be making changes. You might be working on your SEO, but unless you actually track what impact that has, you don't know whether you've wasted your time and energy or not. So that's really important. So choose what's manageable, act on it, and then track, well, what was the exact result of that action? Should I do more of that? If it worked, absolutely, yes. If it didn't work, why didn't it work? And what else will I do instead? And what was the learning from it? Really, really key. So why not market and sell directly to your previous international and ROI customers? This is really important. So an example is to offer, say, a €10 or a £10 if you're choosing to stick with sterling pricing for the ROI market. You have a database, you have a list of previous clients. Reach out and offer a discount. I would always suggest offering a discount, an amount rather than a percentage, because an amount is real, especially if you send like a coupon or a voucher with a monetary value on it. If somebody throws that in the bin, it's like like putting real money in a bin. Whereas if it just says a percentage, it's not quite the same in terms of what they're giving up and not using, as it were. Remember that everyone in your business is responsible for selling. Some of you are working on your own and doing great jobs at it. Some of you are very fortunate to have a team. So now that you have all of these new learnings for your ROI segment, does everybody else within your team and within your business or within your themed experience locally understand the why behind these choices are being made in terms of the actions you're taking? That's important. So not just say, well, go and post this kind of thing on Facebook, but give them the why, give them the understanding, and then they might come back with some very interesting recommendations for you as well. So finally, your last few top tips of how to move fast to action to attract your ROI customers. Use Facebook and Twitter and other social media. Use it effectively though. When I say Twitter, only use it if your market is there and if you enjoy it and if you're going to use it in a business sense. I'm not a huge fan actually for my own business and for most of my clients' business. Some absolutely love it. I have some clients that have moved away from all other social media and only use Twitter. So again, it's whether you enjoy it and whether it appeals to your particular customer segment. Manage your reviews. TripAdvisor, not all of us are keen on it. We certainly don't like getting the bad reviews, but we really should, or the recommendation is that we should respond to every single review on TripAdvisor, whether positive or negative. And that has a massive impact on the sales going forward, because if you would choose to ignore it, the problem is your customer, your potential customer, is not ignoring it. They're seeing it. People do check TripAdvisor, so you need to be active on TripAdvisor as well. Sing your own praises. There's something about us and our mentality in this country, not to want to sing our own praises. But we should. When it comes to a business, in a business sense anyway, we need to really highlight our awards, our accolades, our prizes, tell people how great we are, because they need to know. They need to get that comfort to know that you know what you're doing, that you're the best of what you do. and when they do book and they spend money with you and they spend their time with you, they're going to get a really great experience. So it's one of the ways of them judging you, and they are judging you before they book you. So that's a great way, an easy way to affect their perception of you. Do check if you're listed in relevant guidebooks and destination travel websites, because you might be, or you might be, but it might be outdated. So do a quick review while you're checking your third-party websites for your listings. Make sure that their pricing is correct, any discounts and add-ons are correct, the imagery is what you want to be showing, and the wording is on point as well. Don't forget your traditional PR, because some of your markets, especially the indulgent relaxers, still like the supplements in the weekend newspapers. They like magazines, they like TV and radio. Certain radio stations really appeal to that market. So don't abandon those just because we have our new social media platforms. And make a list of the key events you want to attend. More importantly than that, prepare properly for them. Again, there's other resources on the Tourism Northern Ireland website about how you can effectively prepare for and attend and follow up to events like Meet the Buyer, both virtually and in person. So thank you very much for participating in this workshop segment. As you can see, my ethos, as always, is be focused, be strategic, and move fast to action. Thank you.